If you're a type 1 diabetic, you're looking to gain weight, you're on a carnivore diet, then I'm explaining why it's not necessarily the best thing for you. Okay, let's dive in. If it's your first time on the channel, guys, I help diabetics to control their blood sugars and transform their bodies. But if you're not a diabetic, but you like things like supplement reviews as well as lifestyle posts, so stick around, smash the subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you guys don't miss out. Hit that like button too, just helps my channel grow some more. Just a disclaimer, this video is specifically for type 1 diabetics looking to gain weight and stack on muscle as part of gaining weight over time and maintaining that consistently. So if you're somebody that's on a carnivore diet and it's working for you to control your blood sugars, that's all you care about, no problem. Hey, do what works for you. This is specifically touching on gaining weight and keeping that weight up consistently, and why I don't believe a carnivore diet is the best solution for you if your goal is specifically to gain weight as much as you can and keep that maintained over time. We have to look at type 1 diabetes from a hormonal perspective rather than just the types of food we're eating. We need to understand, how do these foods impact the key hormone in our body, insulin. Insulin is a powerhouse for weight gain when used the right way and muscle development when used the right way. And what ends up happening is we don't look at the diabetes and the goals we want, like gaining weight and building muscle from a hormonal perspective, then we can get caught in the spin cycle. We never really gain the weight we want, or we never really build the muscle that we want. The key foundation of building the weight that we want, again, remember, we need to manipulate the hormone insulin as well. So we need to increase our insulin levels. A lot of us are very, very low on insulin. If you're somebody that's on a carnivore diet, you're gonna be extremely low on insulin, extremely low on carbohydrates. You're naturally not gonna have as much weight on you as somebody who is eating more carbohydrates. One of the reasons for that, for each gram of glucose, your body, in glycogen storage, your body is gonna hold about 2 to 3 grams of water. So over time, you can see somebody naturally will actually have more water weight just on the fact that they're consuming more carbohydrates. It's another key reason why you should be drinking a lot of water as well. Now, the second thing we have to understand is insulin is extremely important for shuttling nutrients like glucose, as we know, and amino acids, the building blocks of protein, into our muscle. But even at a cellular level, insulin is responsible for enhancing transcription factors, the transcription process where the body reads your DNA and creates what's called mRNA and carries it out of the nucleus of the cell. And that mRNA is going to carry instructions for assembling amino acids together to create protein. And insulin can help to speed this process up, or what's called upregulate, can help to upregulate this process, meaning your body can make more proteins. Proteins are essential for everything in our body, from the connective tissues in our body to, we think about immune system function. Proteins also are responsible for creating things like antioxidants, which are part of our immune system function. Think about insulin in terms of vasodilation, opening up blood vessels to allow the shuttling of nutrients into the body's cells more effectively. You also have what's called the mTOR pathway, and insulin can help to enhance translation during the mTOR pathway. And all that means is it helps speed up how your ribosomes, which are your protein manufacturers inside of your cell, can speed up how they're reading those mRNAs to create more proteins for you. Especially with that mTOR pathway, which is directly related to creating more proteins that are also directly connected to repairing muscle tissue, building muscle tissue. And if you're a type 1 diabetic, bottom line is you're low on insulin. And so your body is not going to release the same amount of insulin that somebody who is not a type 1 diabetic. For example, somebody who consumes a large steak is going to still release insulin while they're eating that large steak, meaning that they have a large steak, they also have some other protein, they're consistently having a large stream of insulin similar to carbohydrates that gets released in their system as a result of the leucine that triggers that insulin release. So they're still getting that, but as a type 1 diabetic, because you're not producing that insulin anymore, your body is not actually functioning the same way as a non-diabetic that is on a carnivore diet. Your body, you have to inject yourself on your own. And at times it becomes complicated because you might not have a spike from the protein, meaning that you don't need to take the insulin or else you end up in a blood sugar low. Whereas our person who is not a type 1 diabetic can go and have the protein, spike insulin, the body keeps everything very tightly regulated. And so you're seeing that you're kind of putting yourself at more of a disadvantage from that perspective. Now, sure, there's some great benefits to eating lower carbohydrates and you have some meat on board, things like that. But at the end of the day, if we're neglecting the hormonal function that's important for weight gain, what we want to do again is make sure that we're in a caloric surplus, so we're eating more than our maintenance calories consistently, along with driving up the insulin to help us to put on the weight. That means that a lot of from our macronutrients of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, we should be consuming more carbohydrates, a lot more carbohydrates than what you are now, especially if you've hit a plateau and you're having trouble gaining. You have to start to track your calories and be in a surplus. You have to track the macros, the protein, the carbs, and the fats, and make sure that those carbohydrates are high, because when those carbohydrates are high, and that might have to be about 40 to 60% of what your overall calories are at least, just to help to drive more insulin, to help you to start to stack on weight, and doing that consistently over time. Otherwise, you might get caught in a spin cycle where you're on a carnivore diet, but you're limiting yourself on the hormonal side of things when it comes to the insulin, putting you at a disadvantage. Even if you're 1-for-1 for a non-diabetic on a carnivore diet and a type 1 on a carnivore diet, you're still at a disadvantage because your body's not producing insulin, where the non-diabetic on a carnivore diet is. And so they're reaping a little bit more benefits than you might be because your body doesn't produce insulin. Remember, insulin shuttling glucose into your body's cells stores that glucose as glycogen. When that glucose gets stored as glycogen, that also is great for preserving muscle. So when you're training and you're working out, that glycogen is going to pinch hit and preserve any type of amino acids from being broken down, so the body can utilize mainly the glucose as energy. Right? And so now you're preserving muscle to build more down the road as well. And so all these components put together are important to take into account if you are considering going over to a carnivore diet and you're struggling to gain weight and put on some muscle. Really consider the importance of insulin and consider how your body might be slightly different than a non-diabetic who's on a carnivore diet, and start to look at the hormonal impact of the scenario, as along with what you eat, of course, is important, but also look at the hormonal impact of what that insulin is doing in your body and what you're actually taking in. All right, so I hope that helped you guys out. Just want to give you guys my insight on that carnivore diet and what works and how to maybe look at something that maybe you haven't looked at it from that perspective before. But I hope that helped out. Again, if you guys have any comments or any questions, drop them down below. I got you guys covered.